my name's Sarah. Thank you for being here and welcome. It's Friday. We are crawling our way through to the weekend. I'm very excited to have a good old lion tomorrow. Really nice to have you with me. I hope you're enjoying the book so far and hope you're all feeling happy and well. So we're up to chapter 5. Last chapter was about the discovery. So Jean is basically full of surprises, full of hidden secrets, and we're starting to kind of understand her a little bit better. Or is it her? Who knows? At this stage, everything's a bit unknown. So the next chapter is called How the Girl Did It. So get yourself comfy, have a cuppa, and we'll get started. How the Girl Did It. At home, he found a party of young friends who hailed with delight the prospect of a revel at the hall. An hour later, the blithe company trooped to the great saloon, where preparations had already been made for the dramatic evening. Good Sir John was in his element, for he was never so happy as when the house was full of young people. Several persons were chosen, and in a few moments the curtains were withdrawn from the first of these impromptu tableaux. A swarthy, dark-bearded man lay asleep on the tiger skin in the shadow of a tent. Oriental arms and drapery surrounded him. An antique silver lamp burned dimly on the table where fruit lay heaped in costly dishes, and wine shone readily in half-empty goblets. Bending over the sleeper was a woman, robed with barbaric splendour. One hand turned back the embroidered sleeve from the arm which held a scimitar. One slender foot in a scarlet sandal was visible under the white tunic. Her purple mantle swept down from the snowy shoulders. Fillets of gold bound her hair, and jewels shone on neck and arms. She was looking over her shoulder towards the entrance of the tent, with a steady yet stealthy look, so effective that for a moment the spectators held their breath as if they also heard a passing footstep. "Who is it?" whispered Lucia, for the face was new to her. "Jane Muir," answered Coventry, with an absorbed look. "Impossible. She's small and fair," began Lucia. But hasty, "Hush, let me look," from her cousin silenced her. Impossible as it seemed, he was right nevertheless, for Jane Muir it was. She had darkened her skin, painted her eyebrows, disposed some white-black locks over her fair hair, and thrown such an intensity of expression into her eyes that they darkened and dilated till they were as fierce as any southern eyes that had ever flashed. Hatred, the deepest and bitterest, was written on her sternly beautiful face. Courage glowed in her glance. Power spoke in the nervous grip of the slender hand that was the weapon. An indomitable will of the woman was expressed. Even the firm pressure of the little foot half hidden in the tiger skin. "Oh, isn't she splendid?" cried Bella under her breath. "She looks as if she used her sword well when the time comes," said someone admiringly. "Good night to Holofernes. His fate is certain," added another. "He is the image of Sidney, with that beard on." "Doesn't she look as if she really hated him?" "Perhaps she does." Coventry uttered the last exclamation, for the two which preceded it suggested an explanation of the marvellous change in Jean. It was not at all art. The intense detestation mingled with a savage joy that the object of her hatred was in her power was too perfect to be feigned, and having the key to a part of her story, Coventry felt as if he caught a glimpse of truth, but it was a glimpse, however, for the curtain dropped before he half analysed the significance of that strange face. "Horrible! I'm glad it's over," said Lucia coldly. "Magnificent! Encore! Encore!" cried Gerald enthusiastically. But the scene was over, and no applause could recall the actress. 2 or 3 graceful or wonderful pictures followed, but Jean was in none, and each lacked the charm which real talent lends to the simplest part. "Coventry, you are wanted," called a voice, and to everyone's surprise, Coventry went through the heretofore. He'd always refused to exert himself when handsome actors were in demand. "What part am I to spoil?" he asked, as he entered the green room, where several excited young gentlemen were costuming and prancing about. "A fugitive cavalier. Put yourself in this suit, and lose no time asking questions. Miss Muir will tell you what to do. She's in the tableau, so no one will mind you," said the manager, Protem, throwing a rich old suit towards Coventry, and resuming the painting of a moustache on his own boyish face. A gallant cavalier was the result of Gerald's hastily toilet, and when he appeared before the ladies, a general glance of admiration was bestowed upon him. "Come along and be placed. Jean is ready on stage," and Bella ran before him, exclaiming to her governess, "Here he is, quite splendid. Wasn't he good to do it?" Miss Muir, the charmingly prim and paramatical dress of a Roundhead damsel, was arranging some shrubs, but turned suddenly and dropped the green branch she held, as her eye met the glittering figure advancing towards her. "You," she said with a troubled look, adding low to Bella, "why did you ask him? I begged you not. He's the only handsome man here, and the best actor if he likes. He won't play usually, so make the most of him." And Bella was off to finish powdering her hair for the marriage à la mode. "I was sent for, and I came. Do you prefer some other person?" asked Coventry, at a loss to understand the half-anxious, half-eager expression of the face under the little cap. It changed to one of mingled annoyance and resignation, as she said, "It's too late. Please kneel here, half behind the shrubs. Put down your hat, and allow me. You're too elegant for a fugitive." As he knelt before her, she dishevelled his hair, pulled his lace collar away, threw away his gloves and sword, and half untied the cloak that hung about his shoulders. "That's better. Your paleness is excellent. Nay, don't spoil it. We are to represent the picture which hangs in the hall, and I tell you no more. Now, Roundheads, place yourselves and ring up the curtain." With a smile, Coventry obeyed her, for the picture was of two lovers, the young cavalier kneeling with his arm around the waist of a girl, who tries to hide him with her little mantle, and presses his head to her bosom in an ecstasy of fear, as she glances back at the approaching pursuers. Jean hesitated in an instant, and shrank a little, as his hand touched her. She blushed deeply, and her eyes fell before his. Then, as the bell rang, she threw herself into the part with sudden spirit. One arm covered him with her cloak, the other pillowed his head on the muslin kerchief folded in her bosom, and she looked backwards with such terror in her eyes that more than one chivalrous young spectre longed to hurry to the rescue. It lasted but a moment, yet in that moment Coventry experienced another new sensation. Many women had smiled on him, but he had remained heart-whole cool and careless, quite unconscious of the power which a woman possesses and knows how to use, for the weal or woe of a man. Now, as he knelt there with a soft arm around him, a slender waist yielding to his touch, and a maiden heart throbbing against his cheek, for the first time in his life, he felt the indescribable spell of womanhood, and looked at the ardent lover to perfection. Just as his face assumed this new and becoming aspect, the curtain dropped, and the clamorous encores recalled him to the fact that Miss Muir was trying to escape from his hold, which had grown painful in its unconscious pressure. He sprang up half bewildered, and looking as if he'd never looked before. "Again, again," called Sir John, and the young men who played the Roundheads, eager to share in the applause, begged for a repetition in the new attitudes. "A rustle has betrayed you. We have fired the shot, the brave girl, and she lies dying, you know. That will be effected. Try it, Miss Muir," said one, and with a long breath, Jean complied. The curtain went up, showing the lover still on his knees, unminded of the captors who clutched him by the shoulder, for at his feet the girl lay dying. Her head was on his breast now, her eyes looking into his, no longer wild with fear, but eloquent with the love which death could not conquer. The power of those tender eyes thrilled Coventry, with a strange delight, and set his heart beating as rapidly as hers had done. She felt his hands tremble, saw the colour flash into his cheek, knew that she had touched him at last, and when she rose, it was with a sense of triumph which she found it hard to conceal. Others thought it fine acting. Coventry tried to believe so, but Lucia set her teeth, and as the curtain fell out of that second picture, she left her place to hurry behind the scenes, bent on putting an end to such dangerous play. Several actors were complimenting the mimic lovers. Jean took it merrily, but Coventry, in spite of himself, betrayed that he was excited by something deeper than mere gratified vanity. As Lucia appeared, his manner changed to its usual indifference, but he could not quench the unwonted fire in his eyes, or keep all trace of emotion out of his face, and she saw this with a sharp pang. "I've come to offer my help. You must be tired, Miss Muir. Can I relieve you?" said Lucia hastily. "Yes, thank you. I shall be very glad to leave the rest to you, and enjoy them from the front." So with a sweet smile Jean tripped away, and to Lucia's dismay Coventry followed. "I want you, Gerald. Please stay," she cried. "I've done my part. No more tragedy for me tonight." And he was gone before she could entreat or command. There was no help for it. She must stay and do her duty, or expose her jealousy to the quick eyes about her. For a time she bore it, but the sight of her cousin, leaning over the chair she had left, and chatting to the governess, who now filled it, grew unbearable, and she dispatched a little girl with a message to Miss Muir. "Please, Miss Beaufort wants you for Queen Bess, as you're the only lady with red hair. Will you come?" whispered the child, quite unconsciously of any hidden sting in her words. "Yes, dear, willingly, though I'm not stately enough for Her Majesty, nor handsome enough," said Jean, rising with untroubled face, though she resented the feminine insult. "Do you want an Essex? I'm dressed for it," said Coventry, following her to the door with a wistful look. "No. Miss Beaufort said you were not to come. She doesn't want you both together," said the child decidedly. Jean gave him a significant look, shrugged her shoulders, and went away, smiling her odd smile, while Coventry paced up and down the hall in a curious state of unrest, which made him forgetful of everything till the young people came gaily out to supper. "Come, Bonnie, Prince Charlie will take me now down and play the lover as charmingly as you did an hour ago. I never thought you had so much warmth in you," said Bella, taking his arm out and drawing him against his will. "Don't be foolish, child. Where is Lucia?" Why, he checked Jean's name on his lips, and substituted another's. He could not tell, but a sudden shyness in speaking of her possessed him, and though he saw her nowhere, he would not have asked for her. His cousin came down looking lovely in a classical costume, but Gerald scarcely saw her, and when the merriment was at its height, he slipped away to discover what had become of Miss Muir. Alone in the deserted drawing-room, he found her, and paused to watch her a moment before he spoke, for something in her attitude and face struck him. She was leaning wearily back in a great chair, which had served for a throne. Her royal robes were still unchanged, though the crown was off, and in her fair hair hung about her shoulders. Excitement and exertion made her brilliant. The rich dress became her wonderfully, and an air of luxurious indolence changed the meek governess into a charming woman. She leaned on the velvet cushions as if they were used to such support. She played with the jewels which had crowned her carelessly, as if she was born to wear them. Her attitude was full of negligent grace, and the expression of her face half proud, half pensive, as if her thoughts were bittersweet. One would know she was well born to see her now. Poor girl, what a burden of life of dependence must it be to spirit like hers. I wonder what she's thinking of so intently, and Coventry indulged in another look before he spoke. "Shall I bring you some supper, Miss Muir?" "Supper!" she ejaculated with a start. "Who thinks of nobody when one's soul is?" She stopped there, knit her brows, and laughed faintly as she added, "No, thank you. I want nothing but advice, and I dare not ask of anyone." "Why not?" "Because I have no right. Everyone has a right to ask for help, especially the weak of the strong. Can I help you? Believe me, I most heartily offer my poor services." "Oh, you forget. The dress, the borrowed splendor of these jewels, the freedom of this beautiful evening, the romance of the part you played, all blind you to the reality. For a moment I cease to be a servant, and for a moment you treat me as an equal." It was true. He had forgotten. That soft, reproachful glance touched him. His distrust melted under the new charm, and he answered with real feeling in a voice and face, "I treat you as an equal because you are one. And when I offered help, it's not to my sister's governess alone, but to Lady Howard's daughter." "Who told you that?" she demanded, sitting erect. "My uncle." "Do not reproach him. It shall go no further, if you forbid it." "Are you sorry that I know?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I will not be pitied." And her eyes flashed as she made a half-defiant gesture. "Then if I may not pity the hard fate which has befallen on an innocent life, may I admire the courage which meets adverse fortune so bravely, and conquers the world by winning the respect and regard of all who see and honour it." Miss Muir averted her face, put up her hand, and answered hastily, "No, no, no, not that. Do not be kind. It destroys only the barrier now left between us. Be cold to me as before. Forget what I am, and let go of me. Let go of my way, unknown, unpitied, and unloved." Her voice faltered and failed as the last word was uttered. As she bent her face upon her hand, something jarred upon Coventry in this speech, and moved him to say almost rudely, "You need have no fears for me. Lucia will tell you what an iceberg I am." "Then Lucia would tell me wrong. I have the fatal power of reading character. I know you better than she does, and I see—" There, she stopped abruptly. "What? Tell me, and I'll prove your skill," he said eagerly. Turning, she fixed her eyes on him with a penetrating power that made him shrink as she said slowly, "Under the ice I see fire, and warn you to beware lest it prove a volcano." For a moment he sat dumb, wondering at the insight of the girl, for she was the first to discover the hidden warmth of nature, too proud to confess its tender impulses, or the ambitious that slept till some potent voice awoke them. The blunt, almost stern manner in which she warned him away from her only made her more attractive, for there was no conceit or arrogance in it, only foreboding, fear, emboldening by past suffering to be frank. Suddenly he spoke impetuously. "You are right. I am not what I seem, and my indolent indifference is but the mask under which I conceal my real self. I could be as passionate, as energetic, and as aspiring as Ned if I had any aim in life. I have none, and so I am what you once called me, the thing to pity and despise." "I never said that," cried Jean indignantly. "Not in those words, perhaps, but you looked it and thought it. Though you phrased it more mildly, I deserved it. But I shall deserve it no longer. I am beginning to wake from a disgraceful idleness, and long for some work that shall make a man of me. Why do you go? I annoy you with my confessions. Pardon me. They are the first I've ever made, and they shall be the last. No, oh no, I'm too much honoured by your confidence. But it's wise, it's loyal to tell me your hopes and aims. Has not Miss Beaufort the first to be your confidant?" Coventry drew back, looking intensely annoyed, for the name recalled much that he would gladly have forgotten in the novel excitement of the hour. Lucia's love, Edward's parting words, his own reserve so strangely thrown aside, so difficult to resume. What he would have said was checking by the sight of a half-open letter which fell from Jean's dress as she moved away mechanically. He took it up to return it, and as he did, he recognised Sydney's handwriting. Jean snatched it from him, turning pale to the lips as she cried, "Did you read it? What did you see? Tell me on your honour." "On my honour I saw nothing but this single sentence. 'By the love I bear you.' Believe what I say. No more as I am a gentleman. I know the hand, I guess the purport of the letter, and as a friend of Sidney, I earnestly despise to help you, if I can. Is this the matter on which you want advice? Yes. Then let me give it. You cannot without knowing it all, and it's so hard to tell. Let me guess it, and spare you the pain of telling. May I? And Coventry waited eagerly for her reply, for the spell was still upon him. Holding the letter fast, she beckoned him to follow, and glided before him to a secluded little nook, half boudoir, half conservatory. There she paused, stood an instant as if in doubt, then looked up at him with confiding eyes, and said decidedly, I will do it. For strange as it may seem, you are the only person whom I can speak. You know, Sidney, you've discovered that I am an equal. You've offered your help. I accept it. But oh, do not think of me unwomanly. Remember how alone I am, how young, and how much I rely on your sincerity, your sympathy. Speak freely, I am indeed your friend. And Coventry sat down beside her, forgetful of everything but the soft-eyed girl who confided in him so entirely. Speaking rapidly, Jean went on. You know that Sidney loved me, that I refused him and went away. But you do not know that his importunities nearly drove me wild, that he threatened to rob me of my only treasure, my good name, and that in desperation I tried to kill myself. Yes, mad, wicked as it was, I did long to end the life which was, at best, a burden, and under his persecution had become a torment. You are shocked, yet what I say is living truth. Lady Sidney will confirm it. The nurses at the hospital will confess that it was not a fever which brought me there, and here, through the external wound is healed, my heart still aches and burns with the shame and indignation which only a proud woman can feel. She paused and sat with kindling eyes, glowing cheeks, and both hands pressed to her heaving bosom, as if the old insult roused her new spirit anew. Coventry said not a word, for the surprise and anger and admiration mingled so confusedly in his mind that he forgot to speak, and Jean went on. The wild act of mine convinced him of my indomitable dislike. He went away, and I believed that the stormy love of his would only be cured by absence. It is not, and I live in daily fear of fresh entreaties, renewed persecution. His mother promised not to betray where I had gone, but he found me and wrote to me. The letter I asked you to take to Lady Sidney was a reply to his, imploring him to leave me in peace. You failed to deliver it, and I was glad, for though the silence may quench hope, all in vain, this is a more passionate appeal than ever, and he vows he will never desist from his endeavours till I give another man the right to protect me. I can do this. I am sorely tempted to do this, but I rebel against the cruelty. I love my freedom. I have no wish to marry at this man's bidding. What can I do? How can I free myself? Be my friend and help me. Tears streamed down her cheeks, sobs choked her words, and she clasped her hands imploringly as she turned towards the young man in abandonment of sorrow, fear, and supplication. Coventry found it hard to meet those eloquent eyes, and answer calmly, for he had no experience in such scenes, and knew not how to play his heart. In this absurd dress and that romantic nonsense, which made me feel so unlike myself, he thought, quite unconscious of the dangerous power which the dusky room, the midsummer warmth and fragrance of memory of romantic nonsense, and most of all the presence of a beautiful afflicted woman had over him. His usual self-possession deserted him, and he could only echo the words which made the strangest impression on him. You can do this. You are tempted to do it. Is Ned the man who can protect you? No, was the soft reply. Who then? Do not ask me. A good and honourable man, one who loves me well and would devote his life to me, one whom once it would have been happiness to marry, but now— There her voice ended in a sigh, and her fair hair fell down upon her face, hiding it in a shining veil. Why not now? This is sure and speedy way of ending your distress. Is it impossible? In spite of himself, Gerald leaned nearer, took one of the little hands in his, and pressed it as he spoke, urgently, compassionately, nay, almost tenderly. From behind the veil came a heavy sigh, and the brief answer, "It is impossible." "Why, Jean?" She flung her hair back with sudden gesture, drew away her hand, and answered almost fiercely, "Because I do not love him. Why do you torment me with such questions? I tell you I am in a sore strait, and cannot see my way. Shall I deceive the good man and secure peace at the price of liberty and truth? Or shall I defy Sydney, and lead a life of dread? In the menace my life should not fear, but he menaces that which is dearer than life, my good name. A look, a word can tarnish it. A scornful smile, a significant shrug can do more harm than a blow. For I am a woman, friendless, poor, and at the mercy of his tongue. Ah, better to have died and so have been saved by the bitter pain that has come now." She sprang up, clasped her hands over her head, and paced despairingly through the little room, not weeping, but wearing an expression more tragic than tears. Still feeling as if he had suddenly stepped into a romance, yet finding a keen pleasure in the part assigned to him, Coventry threw himself into it with spirit, and heartily did his best to console the poor girl who needed help so much. Going to her, he said impetuously, as Ned ever did, "Miss nay, I will say Jean if that's your comfort to you. Listen, and rest assured that no harm shall touch you if I can ward it off. You are needlessly alarmed, indignant, you may well be, but upon my life, I think you are wrong. Sydney. He is violent, I know, but he is too honourable a man to injure you by a light word, an unjust act. He did but threaten, hoping to soften you. Let me see him or write to him. He is my friend, he will listen to me. Of that I am sure." "Be sure of nothing. When a man like Sydney loves and is thwarted in his love, nothing can control his headstrong will. Promise me you will not see or write to him. Much as I fear and despise him, I will not submit, rather than any harm shall befall you or your brother. You promise me, Mr. Coventry." He hesitated. She clung to his arm with unfeigned solicitude in her eager, pleading face, and he could not resist it. "I promise, but in return you must promise to let me give you what help I can, and Jean, never say again that you are friendless. You are so kind. God bless you for it, but I dare not accept your friendship. She will not permit it, and I have no right to mar her peace." "Who will not permit it?" he demanded hotly. "Miss Beaufort." "Hang Miss Beaufort!" exclaimed Coventry, with such energy that Jean broke into a musical laugh despite her troubles. He joined in it, and for an instant they stood looking at each other, as if the last barrier were down, and they were friends indeed. Jean paused suddenly, with a smile on her lips, the tears still on her cheek, and made a warning gesture. He listened. The sound of feet mingled with calls and laughter proved that they were not missed and sought. That laugh betrayed us. "Stay and meet them, I cannot." And Jean darted out upon the lawn. Coventry followed, for the thought of confronting so many eyes, so many questions, daunted him, and he fled like a coward. The sound of Jean's flying footsteps guided him, and he overtook her just as she paused behind a rose thicket to take breath. Faint-hearted night, you should have stayed and covered my retreat. Hark, they are coming, hide, hide! She panted, half in fear, half in merriment, as the pursuers rapidly drew nearer. "Kneel down, the moon is coming out, and the glitter of your embroidery will betray you," whispered Jean as they covered behind the roses. "Your arms and hair will betray you. Come, under my plaidie, as the song says," and Coventry tries to make his velvet cloak cover while the shoulders and fair locks. We are not acting our parts in reality now. How Bella will enjoy the thing when I tell her. And Jean, as the noises died away. "Do not tell her," whispered Coventry. "And why not?" she asked, looking into the face so near her own, with artless glance. "Can you not guess why? Oh, you are so proud you cannot bear to be laughed at. It's not that, it's because I do not want you to be annoyed by silly tongues. You've had enough pain. You've had enough to pain you without that. I am your friend now, and I'll do my best to prove it." "So kind, so kind. How can I thank you?" murmured Jean, and she involuntarily nestled closer under the cloak that sheltered both. Neither spoke for a moment, and in the silence the rapid beating of two hearts was heard. To drown the sound, Coventry said softly, "Are you frightened?" "No, I like it," she answered, as softly, then added abruptly, "But why do we hide? There's nothing to fear. It's late. I must go. You are kneeling on my train. Please rise." "No, I like it," she answered, as softly, then added abruptly, "But why do we hide? There's nothing to fear. It's late. I must go. You are kneeling on my train. Please rise." Why in such a haste? This flight and search only adds to the charm of the evening. "I'll not get up yet. Will you have a rose, Jean?" "No, I will not. Let me go, Mr. Coventry. I insist. There's been enough of this folly. You forget yourself." She spoke so imperiously, flung off the cloak, and put it from him. He rose at once, saying like one walking suddenly from a pleasant dream, "I do indeed forget myself." Here the sounds of voices broke on them, nearer than before, pointing to a covered walk that led to the house. He said in his unusually cool, calm tone, "Go in that way. I will cover your retreat," and turning he went to meet the merry hunters. Half an hour later, when the party broke up, Miss Muir joined them in her usual quiet dress, looking paler, meeker, and sadder than usual. Coventry saw this, though he neither looked at her nor addressed her. Lucia saw it also, and was glad that the dangerous girl had fallen back into her proper place again, for she'd suffered much that night. She appropriated her cousin's arm as they went through the park, but he was in one of his taciturn moods, and all her attempts at conversation were in vain. Miss Muir walked alone, singing softly to herself as she followed in the dusk. Was Gerald so silent because he listened to that fitful song? Lucia thought so, and felt her dislike rapidly deepening to hatred. When the young friends were gone, and the family were exchanging good nights among themselves, Jean was surprised by Coventry's offering of his hand, for he had never done that before, and whispering as he held it, though Lucia watched him the while, "I have not given my advice yet." "Thanks. I no longer need it. I've decided for myself." "May I ask how?" "To brave my enemy." "Good. But what decided you so suddenly?" "The finding of a friend." And with a grateful glance, she was gone. Okay, that was our chapter of the day. Hope you enjoyed that, and I will be back next week with some more videos for you. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye.